Sell yourself first. Doesn't matter what you're selling. Sell yourself first. Create an authentic relationship with whoever's in front of you, and then become a trusted advisor. The person asking the questions is in control. The person answering the questions feels in control.
Everyone who's successful was scared to do it. They did it anyway. They got beat down the first few times they did it. They did it again anyway.
You have to care about the customers and really want a relationship with them. You put yourself through something hard every morning, first thing, everything else is easy. Body language. Body language is more important than anything. Whatever the product is, it doesn't matter. You have to keep trying.
We're very excited to have him on here to talk about sales and specifically about making people feel special as your client. Welcome to the show, Eric.
How's it going, guys?
Good to see you, brother. Appreciate you doing this on pretty short notice, man. I mean, I'm notorious for short notice, but this might be a record.
3 hours, man. That's plenty of time. That's
3 hours ago.
2 hours and 50 more minutes than I needed.
I do believe you.
Well, it's good to meet you, Eric, and we're glad to have you on the show. You were on Wiser Wednesday a little bit ago and got some great reviews. And if you're not familiar with Wiser Wednesday, that's actually an optional training that Brian leads at his shop. He usually has some great guests on there. Brian, is that what, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m.? What time zone are we in right now? 7 a.m. Pacific? Is that where you're at?
7 a.m.?
Yeah.
5 p.m.?
No, not right now.
We're
I'm talking my gracious. Focus here,
sorry, buddy.
I'll answer the question. Yes, it was 7 a.m.
7 a.m. Okay, yeah. So if you're interested in that, you can always hit us up in the Waste No Day Facebook group, and Brian will get you connected with those details. But Eric was on there a couple weeks ago,
like we did 2 weeks ago.
Oh yes,
anyway,
yes. Your
shoot us an email.
Address.
I'm going to get it right this time. service@wastenoday.net. Also,
there you
I'm
go.
going to keep posting it, even though they're probably sold out. Boot camp tickets, Nashville, May 2nd and 3rd at the Gaylord Opry, which is a freaking beautiful resort. I'm like, we're stepping it up. That they're on sale now. Either shoot an email to that email address or go to wastenoday.com.
And I'll just throw a plug in on that. I've been involved with sales for a long time, and I've done a lot of studying on sales, watched a lot of guys, and I was a member of the first Waste No Day boot camp, and it was awesome, worth every penny. I got so much out of it, Brian. That was really, really awesome experience, man. And,
appreciate it, bro. Eric didn't have to do a whole
game.
lot of traveling for it, which had to be nice, but I did. He's probably one of the last guys still at the casino when it ended.
Hey, wait a second. If my wife listens to this, that was false. The boot camp ran over, honey.
Well, if you're anything like Nate and me, there's no danger of that.
Don't check the boot or the bank account.
Oh, yeah. Well, Eric, like I said, it is nice to meet you, and we're excited to talk with you about our typical subject here with the sales and specifically your emphasis on it. But before we get into that content, let's hear a little bit about your story. So you're currently in the garage door industry, and how did you get there? What was kind of your trajectory growing up through life? Tell us about you, man.
Oh, geez. We're from San Diego. I mean, if we're talking about sales, like it kind of all started in the restaurant industry. Was in the restaurant industry for a long time, and you got to know human connections, right? Whether it's serving or bartending, etc. And then also in my 20s, always been pretty ambitious. So I decided, let's start a clothing line production agency. So I started a clothing line, and I was pretty wild in my 20s. The clothing line was called Belligerent Athletic Drinking Wear. It was drinking wear for the discriminating. Yeah, we were pretty successful with that as well. I mean, for it being local, we were a ton of shops and this and that. So I mean, just guerrilla marketing was kind of the thing. And I put on a lot of shows with local bands and some pretty big artists. I mean, Head PE, Buck Cherry, Guttermouth, Unwritten Law, even Too Short. So
what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Too Short in the house, and he knows.
Yeah, allegedly smoking blunts backstage with him, but that's all alleged.
Man.
That was I don't really remember those days for a reason.
Nate wasn't alive in those days, but I'm a Short Dog fan, bro.
There you go. We can't even sing 10 seconds of lyrics on here, it'll just get
none. I literally sang every lyric he has that wasn't a swear word just now.
That was it, man. So, you know, I had a lot of fun with that, man. We did the Warp Tour all up and down the West Coast, and like I said, that just kind of naturally brought some sales into it, because obviously I was selling clothing line, selling the brand, marketing myself, marketing the clothing. But it came to a point, you know, I mean, I go to church, I believe in God, and my family has always been on those lines. And with living that lifestyle and representing that name, I didn't want that to be my legacy. You know, I did not want that to be my legacy. So I figured, you know, I need to do something. I'm creeping up on 30 and I need a career. And yeah, Nate might not know about this, but Brian will. A little thing used to be called Craigslist, and found a job on Craigslist for a garage door sales technician, and got my start there in San Diego with Precision. And I'll even name drop them because the owner, Kevin Spratt, was a pretty good guy. And there was a guy there, my mentor still, Larry Emery. And they taught a lot of Sandler sales and went really in depth with it. So stepping in, you know, it's always one of those things. Oh, I know sales and I know people. No, you don't. No, you don't. Not until you really deep dive with that. And so I was with them for quite some time, and then had an opportunity to go to another local company in San Diego. I'm not really going to mention their name for reasons. And was with them for a few years, was able to make a little bit more, and then had the opportunity to come out to Phoenix and to rebuild a company that they had here. They had bought a company from Travis Rackley, who's with A1 Garage, and he owned a company called At Your Service, and we turned it into Garage Door Medics. Well, kind of got ran into the ground, right? So I had the opportunity to come out and rebuild it. So we move out here. My wife did not speak to me for the first summer at all. She absolutely hated it. Moving from San Diego to Phoenix, good Lord. So, you know, COVID hit right about that time, and they took my guarantee away. They called me up a few months into COVID, and they took all the money out of marketing. And that's actually when I started doing the videos. Those guys that are on the Waste No Days podcast will see some of the videos that I've done with customers. And that all started about then, because like I said, I've always kind of done guerrilla marketing and kind of my own thing. And, you know, we were wondering what to do when the money got taken away, the guarantee. And I was thinking, should I start my own garage door company? But then again, I don't want to take away from the family. The girls were heavily involved with the family, always family first. A lot of times you own a business, I mean, family comes second. And so I knew that wasn't an option, but I knew who Tommy Mello was at A1 Garage. And I knew that Travis Rackley was there. And so I hit up Travis Rackley, and he loves telling the story because, you know, being from San Diego, I always start a conversation with, "What's up, amigo?" And that just stuck with him. And, you know, I asked him, "Hey, is the grass really greener over there?" And he said, "Bro, it's so green, it's knee high." And next thing I know, very next day, Tommy Mello's calling me. And in my best Tommy Mello voice, it's, "Hey, buddy, this is Tommy Mello. You're Erick Parks. I know who you are. What's it going to take for you to come over?" It's not bad, huh? It's not bad.
Yeah, it's good.
Bad. So, yeah, and then I came over to A1, man. And, you know, I thought I was good. And this company has taken me to a whole nother level. The way they do things here is unreal. Tommy's the best owner, operator that I've ever worked for, hands down. He actually cares about the employees. He wants you to succeed. He's unreal. I mean, you guys have met the guy. He is everything that you see.
Yeah, well, appreciate that, Eric. And we have had Tommy on the show a couple of times and have always enjoyed having him on. He's always got some wild idea that he's pursuing and leveling up in so many ways. Really appreciate him and the way that he operates, just as you're speaking about there. It's such an interesting trajectory that you ended up at A1. I think your wife probably didn't speak to you for the first summer because she was trying to conserve on internal water. You know, that's one of those things. It's like Dune. If you spit, like you're giving up your water type of thing in Arizona.
Amelia was still cold the first summer. I'm pretty sure she was still wearing a sweater in August here.
But really interesting trajectory, and especially with the clothing thing, that's so fascinating. And it's like you kind of see how your life has careened through these, different stages and decisions and things like that, and how your sales has evolved over the course of all those different experiences, what have been some of the takeaways that you have learned that, from your early years, from like that hustle type, got to go make your own thing? Has anything stuck with you from those days that you have transitioned into the newer version of you and what you're currently doing at A1?
Absolutely. Great question. Sell yourself. Sell yourself first. Doesn't matter what you're selling. Sell yourself first. Create an authentic relationship with whoever's in front of you. Whatever the product is, it doesn't matter. Sell yourself first. Create an authentic relationship and then become a trusted advisor. Always asking the questions, because you remember, the person asking the questions is in control. The person answering the questions feels in control. So I learned that very early, and that's something that has stuck with me that I really haven't changed. Be authentic, be who you are. I use a lot of humor, which I still think I'm funny. Some of the kids do. The wife, half the time, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, sell yourself first. I think that's a huge one that I brought over.
So let's push that out a little bit, Eric, in terms of what does that mean? And maybe you could serve it up to us in illustrative fashion. Like, this is what not selling yourself looks like or sounds like or feels like compared to what you would do when you're in the home. What's the difference there? Or draw some of that, that A to B type experience so we can understand what it means to sell or to not sell yourself.
Okay. I mean, if you're not selling yourself, first of all you're doing is talking about the product. All you're doing is information dumping. You're literally, a Sandler term, you're spilling the candy as soon as you walk in the door. You skip right past bond and report and everything else. You're never, ever going to be top at anything in sales if that's the approach that you take. As far as selling yourself, one thing I like to teach guys that are younger is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. And I tell them, I go, pretend that you're on a first date. First date, the first time you met your wife, your girlfriend, or anything like that. What did you do? You asked them questions and you leaned in and you smiled. You used body language, tonality. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. And you would follow it up with another question and another question. And you wouldn't one up them. You made them feel special. Keep it simple, stupid, and ask the questions. Pretend you're on a first date. Obviously, you don't get all touchy-feely with the customer. That could get a little weird. But yeah, pretend you're on a first date and by asking questions with follow-up questions. And once again, the person asking the questions is in control. The person answering the questions feels in control. You know what I like to talk about too is, Brian, you've probably seen it. Chris Rock. His stand-up from back in the early 2000s, I think it was, Bigger and Blacker.
Yeah, and great show.
Oh, absolutely. But he talks about on there, he goes, it's really easy when you get home from work. You don't even really have to pay attention to your woman. All you got to do is ask her the right questions to allow her to run her mouth. And what he meant by that was, hey, how was your day at work? And he's all, and then just every now and then throwing oh, no way. Tell me more. I told you that bitch is crazy. But what he meant by that is exactly what he said. Ask the right questions to make them feel special and to let them just run it, and don't one up them with a story. If they say a story that relates to you, you can say a story, but always make them more important and their story more important, but you can't just fake it. I can't stand that. And I think Brian talked about that on a previous episode. You got to be authentic with it. You actually have to care about the customers and really want a relationship with them. And I truly believe that if you're not that type of person, then you should probably go work at Walmart or something, because my customers love me. I get invited to dinner all the time. I've cried with customers. I've hugged customers. That actually happened today. A lady had lost her husband, and I just sat there with her in the garage. We sat down on the chair and she just told me everything that happened. And I held her hand and gave her a hug and told her it was going to be okay. And it wasn't a big ticket because it didn't need to be a big ticket. Her garage was in great shape. It was just a little bit off track, and I fixed that up and, spent probably 45 minutes just talking to her. The fix was 5 minutes. And that was the most important call that I had today. And I probably did about 7,000 in service on the other two. So my biggest takeaway, that's the one I remember. Yeah, it's really important to really tune into your customers.
You know, it's a good point to make that's the one I remember, because like,
yeah,
there's going to come a day, no matter who you are that's listening or how young you are in your career or in a truck, where you've run your last service call or sales call and you will never run one again. And you don't know what day that is. I didn't realize when it was going to come for me, and it just showed up. And it's been 12 years or so since I've run a service call, and it'll never happen again. And some of the cooler memories that I have, it's like, I have some memories like that. I've cried with some clients and hugged clients, and even there have been times when I got on the phone for clients and helped them work through things that they weren't able to do, specifically widows. And you have these kind of cherished memories of the time you spent with people. Could not tell you what I sold or what I made on one of those calls.
Right.
Certainly couldn't tell you where the money went, because that's gone. But the relationships were so strong that if I ran into those people at a grocery store in another state, we would recognize each other instantly. And here's the deal with that. If you figure out that that's what it's really all about, and you start doing that nonstop, but still you believe wholeheartedly in your products, you only sell products that you fully stand behind. Like, these are the things that I would put in my mom's house, therefore I'll sell them to anyone, right?
Yes.
If you have those two things figured out, you're going to make so much money that it's not going to matter.
And
like, it's going to be inconsequential.
You know, in relation to all that, I just ran into a guy the other month. I was doing service across the street, and he came back over and he goes, "Hey, do you remember me?" And I looked at him and I kind of didn't remember him, but he goes, "You remember my Uncle John?" And then I looked at the house behind him and I go, "Yes, I do." The first video that I did for A1, and this was something I came up with. I'm sure that it's been done before, but I had never seen it before, with the customer testimonies. The first one that I did was 5 years ago. I think 5 years ago in September. And I was with this guy, 99-year-old World War II veteran named John. And John answered the door. We go into the garage, and I'm like, the garage is in pretty good shape. It's just a broken spring. And he looked at me and, shaky voice. And he said, "Eric, I want you to do everything to this door that you can. I want it to last a long time." I'm like, "John, you're already knocking on heaven's door, man. I mean, what are we talking about here?" But he told me, he goes, "I'm setting this house up for my nephew." By the way, his nephew was 67 years old at the time, because John's 99-year-old World War II veteran. So did a complete overhaul, backslide parts, brand new motor, the whole bit. I mean, that door's running perfect, as the nephew told me when he saw me. But he goes, "Man," he goes, "when you left, my Uncle John just couldn't stop talking about you." I had set a lawn chair down in the garage for John because, he could barely stand up. But you could tell the guy didn't have a lot of company. Some things that stuck with me was when I was talking to him, he told me, he goes, "Hey, Eric, how old are you?" And at the time I was 40 years old. So I'm 46 now. And I know what you're thinking, Brian. Wow, that guy looks amazing for 46.
Like, only 46.
Thank you. I can see it in your eyes, bro. I'm telling you. Anyways, where were we? Anyways, so John, he tells me, he goes, "Man, 40 years old." He goes, "I'll never forget it." In this shaky voice, he goes, "Everybody that I knew when I was 40 and they were 40, he goes, they're all gone. They're all gone." And that really hit me, man. It was just like, wow, he's the only one left. And he told me, he said, I'm ready to go see my wife again and this and that. Anyways, it's been about 2 hours and a lot of talking. I made a video on it. But at the end, his voice was almost gone. And he goes, "Eric, I just want to thank you for sitting here for probably 45 minutes after the work was done and just talking to me." He goes, "I haven't talked this much to somebody in years, and I really appreciate that. That I will never forget." And so I did a video with him and sent it to Tommy and posted it online. And that's when Tommy called me up and he's just like, "What the hell was that?" And I thought he was mad. I was just like, "Oh no, what'd I do wrong?" And he's just like, "I've never seen anybody do that. That was amazing." It was a moment I'll never forget. I'll end up posting that video once I find it, and I'll put it on the Waste No Days podcast page. But it's moments like that, man. If you can create an authentic moment to where it means something to you too, because that's genuine, right? You have to be genuine in this business. Don't be a dirty scumbag salesman. And when I came over and I told Tommy, I said, I'll be one of your top guys, but I'm going to do it the right way. And I'm not going to be dirty. And I've held up to my word on that.
So I appreciate that, Eric. And that's really the matter at hand here that we're looking to dive into, which is this experiential sales, if you will, where, it doesn't necessarily matter if it's $10 or $10,000. You're delivering the experience to the homeowner as if they deserve it, because they do, because they're a client and you're there to serve them. And so I want to dive into that, and I want to hit it from a couple of different angles. And the first one is going to be fairly straightforward here, because it sounds very polite and very kind and very like, let's hang a poster on the wall. It doesn't matter if it's $10 or $10,000. Every client's worth the same. But at the end of the day, from a financial aspect, from money in your pocket, from the value to the company, that's not necessarily true. So how do you carry yourself in such a way that you actually deliver the same type of service, the same level of, I don't want to call it intensity, but the showmanship, you're doing all the things to the same person, regardless of what they're going to spend or have spent in the past. How do you do that day in and day out without ever getting to, honestly, a place of cynicism where you're just kind of, hey, I got some other things. I got to make some money today. Like, let's keep this thing moving. We're going to shortcut a little bit and get to the next client. How do you do that on a daily basis without getting to that place?
Bro, that starts way before I clock in. That starts at 3:45 in the morning when my alarm goes off. Whether I'm tired, like Jocko said, doesn't matter. I get up every morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm in the gym at 4:20, putting calluses on my mind, preparing my mind for the messed up stuff the world's going to throw at me. It's not just to build calluses on your hands and stay in shape, but you put yourself through something hard every morning, first thing, everything else is easy. I'm in a good mood. My customers always wonder why I'm in a good mood. The Lord has blessed me with a lot of patience. Being a father of 4 daughters, good Lord, help me. But, I mean, honestly, that's what it is. It starts before my day even starts. So if I do that every morning and put myself through punishment, it puts me in a way better mood. As opposed to somebody who's staying up until midnight, waking up tired and trying to slam coffee and everything to make it through the day. I mean, I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, but that's my true, honest answer. It starts before I even clock in, and it puts me in a way better mood. And then, going into each customer's house, obviously I'm going to profile them as far as disc and mirror match them. And, but what I'm really good at is bringing out their true profile, because going into these sales situations, everybody wants to say, oh, they were hard to sell to because they're a D and this and that. That's the least characteristic trait that there is out there. There's only a few actual D's, and I like messing with those guys. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, I'll get real direct with them as well. They respect it, because I tell them, I don't make enough money for you to talk to me like that. So why don't you just have a seat and sit down, buddy? I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. And they're like, okay, yeah, this guy looks like he could hit me, but he's here to fix my door. I guess I'll let him fix my door instead of hit me. But no, I like to use a lot of humor, and I like to figure out what the profile is. And somebody like Nate, we're going to enjoy each other because we're going to dork out on parts all day long. He wants all that information. I already know that, so I'm going to give it to him, but I'm going to make him laugh at the same time. I'm naturally pretty loose. Brian, you remember when we did a role play at the Waste No Days boot camp, and somebody had raised their hand when I was done and had asked, are you really that loose with your customers? And as you remember, all the A1 guys, Robin and Justin Tatum and John Phillips, they were like, he's even more loose than that with his customers. Because I like to have fun, man. Enjoy what you do. And creating a relationship with people is something that I enjoy doing. I'm a capital I, personality trait. So please like me.
Well, that's obvious, Eric. And, it's impressive that you're able to be that dynamic and switch through the different personality types. We've spent episodes and have dove into that a couple different times with other people. And I'm curious, at least from your perspective, you're obviously very dynamic. You have this high, high likability. You got humor. You got all that going on for you. When somebody's listening to this episode and they're thinking about, well, that's great for that dude, but I'm not that. I can't be that type of personality. And, being real here, while I may be able to mimic you for a time, I'm not ever going to be able to mimic you call over call over call over call with that type of intensity, that type of, just high energy. That's a stretch for me. Right. Okay. So if that's the case, and you're saying, well, this is a big part of how I do business in terms of delivering that top shelf level customer experience, can I replicate that if my personality is a little bit more reserved and I'm more on the serious side? How can I deliver, such intense level of client service that they feel, no matter if they're spending $10 or $10,000, they feel like they're getting this amazing service and they're going to remember it. They're going to talk about like all these things that you mentioned in these stories, but I don't have that personality. So can I do it?
It gets brought up. Yes, you can. It gets brought up all the time. Luke Barton, a couple of guys had come to him a couple of years ago about this, and they're like, "Oh, well, I can't go in there and put on a song and dance and be a comedian like Parks." And he goes, "Yeah, well, neither is Mario. We have Mario Ferrara, who's one of the best technicians that we have in the company, one of the best sales guys we have in the company. He is an SC personality. Okay, he has more reviews than anybody in the company, and yes, they are all 5 stars."
Yeah,
that's a plug. But Mario, here's what it comes down to: genuine, absolutely genuine, with a bond and rapport and with the authentic relationship. He's so deep in the authentic relationship and the bond and rapport that when it comes to being a trusted advisor, he has their trust way more than I do, because I'm the song and dance and the comedian, right? Well, Mario's so deep in the bond and rapport and the authentic relationship, then when it comes down to price, it matters less with him than it does with me. The guy's freaking amazing. So when those guys would come to Luke and say that, he'd be like, "Look at Mario and look at Parks. They're bipolar opposites in personalities. What's your excuse now? Because Mario is a murderer." So you absolutely can. And it comes down to right back to being authentic and an authentic relationship and bond and rapport.
And that's really encouraging, especially for the listeners, myself included, who were just not necessarily built that way. And yet, there's still those examples of people who are succeeding at the highest levels, who have just different personality types. So I don't want our listeners to ever feel like, oh man, I could never be like that. I could never be that quick on my feet or whatever. Yes, there's certainly wins that come along with those things, but it's not winning the war. It might give you an edge over here, an edge over there. But like you just said, because you use humor and those types of things, you might actually have to fight a little bit harder when it comes to the serious conversation, because you're not necessarily going to be perceived that way. Now, I know
Absolutely.
when to get serious and when to have a more down to earth conversation, so to speak. But it's not necessarily your natural type either. So there's disadvantages going the other direction. Now,
Correct.
From your personality, Eric, I guess the next question would be, or anybody who's listening to this, is there a timer? Is there a checkbox? Is there a light bulb that goes off in your head or something like that when you've gotten to a place with the client that the walls have come down and you are actually getting to that genuine level? Like, how do you recognize that physically or mentally to the degree that okay, we can now have a genuine conversation?
Well, you just nailed it. Physically, body language. Body language is more important than anything. So watching their body language. But it's okay if it's a direct personality, I'm going to see that body language right off the part, and I'm going to assess that. So I'm going to hop into it a little bit quicker because I'm going to see him getting a little bit more standoffish. Okay, well now I know. Or a C personality, I'm going to spend a little bit less time, but I'm still going to try to break down those walls, right? But an I personality, sometimes, we could just be going for 30 minutes to where I'm like, okay, I actually got to do some work here. And I'll throw that in with them. You know what I mean? So there's no the timer would be assessed on their personality trait and the body language that's going on in the garage. Okay. But if it's another I personality with me, I have to hit the pause button or the stop button and get back to the work because we could sit there and talk all day, right? But with the other ones, it's assessing the body language, you know. And as soon as I see them, they're not wanting to have this conversation anymore. So we're going to switch gears. We're going to do it, you know, a pattern interrupt and go back to it.
Now, has that always been a gifting of yours, Eric, that you were able to assess that, you know, quickly and perhaps even naturally within a person? Is that something that you've developed over the years? Even thinking back, you know, to the time when you were selling fashion wear and things like that to probably a
Fashion wear.
fairly diverse crowd. I'm imagining, you know, and probably some tough people, some tough reads, tough skin, those types of people who may or may not necessarily be very interested in authenticity, at least at first glance.
Yeah.
Have you learned things from that area of your life or anywhere in between that has given you the skill set to be able to do this quickly?
Well, yeah, I think that I kind of always had that a little bit, but disc and digging into disc, like Tony Robbins disc, has taken it to a whole nother level. And I tell guys all the time, if they think they know disc, you really don't. Read it more. Check out another person's profiling of disc, or what was it, the Black Swan group, which I'm going to start digging into that, how they do the 3 personalities instead of the disc profiling. I just listened to, I heard Chris Voss talk about it and then his son Brandon, and it makes a lot of sense. So I want to dig into that as well. That can help tremendously. So I think I always had a little bit of it, but not on the level. You know what I mean? You can always do better. You can always learn more. And from the get-go, once I started diving into disc and really diving into it, it really helped. And then when you're actually in that conversation with the person in the garage, it's not like you're really thinking about it. The light bulb does go off, like you were saying, Nate, and their body language is going to tell me, and it's boom, okay, switch gears, pattern interrupt, go this way. You know, so it becomes a natural thing once you study it so much.
Now, Eric, you've obviously run, I'm guessing, thousands of calls with, you know, all different types of people, heritages, you know, races, families, situations, dynamics, incomes, all these different things are occurring. You're seeing this lifetime and you're seeing it across the spectrum. In your experience, have you found that most, if not all, humans are looking for an authentic, genuine conversation? Have you found that some people just don't really care? You know, and in which case, how have you found it? How do you adapt to those scenarios?
Well, no, not everybody is. If you're dealing with somebody who's direct, I mean, you know, a lot of times they're just a-holes and want to get straight to the point. So get straight to the point with it, but don't back down from them either. But that's 1 out of 10 or less. I say, you know, maybe I run, because I don't run a whole lot of calls. I run, you know, 2 or 3 a day. So let's say on top end, I run 15 calls a week, which is actually kind of a lot for me. Maybe one is actually direct out of all of those. Some people will put up their guard at first, acting direct, but just stick to the bond of rapport, and with me, some humor, and I'll pull them right out of it, you know? So no, not everybody's looking to have that experience, but you know what? Here's the best part about it is a better question or a better statement or a better way to put that is most people are not looking to bond and rapport and have this authentic relationship with their garage guy. They weren't planning on having this conversation. They weren't planning on hugging their garage guy. They weren't planning on crying with him. They weren't planning on laughing. They weren't planning on calling their spouse out and being like, oh my gosh, I can't even breathe. Hey, Eric, tell him what you told me. You know, they're not planning on that. But that's what I want to create with them. I want them to remember me when I leave. And a lot of them do. And in the community that we live out here in Surprise, Arizona, it's kind of a smaller community. You know, my wife is an administrator at the school here, and we get seen out in public all the time when we're at the grocery store and stuff. And it's like, hey, there's my garage guy, Eric, come over here, You know, they don't forget me. And I think that that's way more important. So more than people not looking to have that conversation and create that relationship, having that conversation and making that relationship is so important, man. They don't expect it.
There's that quote from Atomic Habits that we used on the show a few weeks ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago or something, which was James Clear, the author, said, I'm going to butcher it now because, you know, I don't have it on my notepad in front of me like I do when we start the show. But he said, most people are so concerned with the fact that they have limits, they never push hard enough to actually find them. And that rings so true with what you're saying. It's like you get this all the time, right? When we roll out a new rebuttal or a new way to ask for the business or whatever, the immediate response I get, always will. The immediate response I get is, if there are 10 people in the room, 8 people shaking their heads and 2 people's hands up going, but what about when the client says this? Right. And we work through that because I do want that pushback. The challenge is, I would say most people are so concerned with accidentally running into whatever this is, that pushback, that one person out of 10 that not only isn't looking for this relationship, but they're opposed to it. They're not going to do it, that they don't try to find the people who are. It's like this self-fulfilling, defeating prophecy where you go, yeah, but you know you're going to run up against that a-hole who just shuts it down completely and says, yeah, right, but this. And you're like, and the best way to look at it is like, yeah, in fact, the first 9 clients you try it on are going to, but that 10th one, that 10th one's going to be big, right?
Well,
and
not
just
only
go
that,
ahead.
Those guys that get butchered, I apologize to interrupt, but the guys that get butchered like that, those are the guys that are scared to do a second presentation. Those are guys that are always going to be mediocre at best. They're always going to be at the bottom. And those are the guys that always blame everything on everybody but themselves. Because they're scared.
Absolutely.
Scared.
Yeah. So, and the best, and it's not like to make fun of them or pick on the people that are afraid. It is to an extent. Like, if you were here, I definitely would. But I know if I do it like via your truck speaker, you're just going to turn it off. So the right way to do it is to say, yes, you're going to be scared when you do this. Yes, you're going to get smacked around when you do this. So were we, and so did we. Yeah. And everyone who's successful was scared to do it. They did it anyway. They got beat down the first few times they did it. They did it again anyway. And then all of a sudden, what happens? You don't nail 100%. You get to the point where you're nailing 80, 85, and then you start figuring out very early by actual practice who are the people that aren't gonna go your way, and you just kind of bypass them. Like, you still do your process 100%, but you just know it's coming and you get through it and on to the next one. Challenge for most people is you've figured out already that nobody's going to do it, even though you haven't tried it, and you shoot yourself in the foot. And the only person you're really, truly hurting is yourself, because if you don't do this garage door repair or sell this new door or give them the upgrades that they're really looking for, doesn't mean they're not going to get it. They're just going to get it from somebody else. They're going to get it from Eric.
Amen. Hey, I mean, take it back to the first date, right? I mean, how many times back in the day, I mean, I never did this. My wife's the only one for me and the only one I've ever looked at my whole entire life. But, first dates, you got objected, right? You got told no. Did you give up? No, you kept trying. And even with your wife, my wife tells me no all the time. I go for no.
Easy, Pepe Le Pew. Oh, yeah. Do you stop asking at home with your wife when you get the no?
Honey, are the kids asleep? Anyway.
No? Are you kidding me? It's like 6 o'clock. What are we doing?
Hey, they're tired, aren't they?
Yeah, release the gas chloroform through the venting system again.
Well, what I meant by that was, I mean, anybody who's with their spouse now, you went on first dates at one point or another. You asked that person, right? You asked them questions. Why aren't you got rejected, but you know what? You finally won. Well, some people haven't, but you know what I mean with that. You have to keep trying. Okay. You have to keep trying, and don't be scared. What are they going to say? No. Oh no, you hurt my feeling. And I only have one feeling. That's what my wife said anyways. I'm not really sure what that even means. Anyways.
Well, Eric, at some point, it has to translate into more than just fun, memorable experiences, right? At some point, they're actually, you are working for a living. You are trying to make money. The company is trying to make money. People need services. So how does one gradually, if not eloquently, transition from this bonding and rapport that you've called it, and Sandler refers to it as well as this memorable experience that you're leaving and talking about life and all these types of things? to the actual business at hand, because this is where some people they have the gift of gab and they can certainly have a conversation about anything under the sun, but then you actually have to get to the heart of the matter, which is you didn't invite me out here for a conversation.
Before
right?
you do though, love the question, Nate. Put a pin in
Yeah.
that, Eric. We're gonna blow that thing up in a sec. But before we do, you said bonding rapport / memorable experience. I've always loved that term, bonding a rapport, since I first heard it. And I thought, man, what a great way to look at it, as opposed to like what it used to be before that, which was the warm up or nothing at all, like getting to know the person. But when you said the memorable experience, man, it's so much more of a trigger, right? Like, you think back to just go back to a restaurant that you were at recently, and most of the time it's just kind of whatever with the service. But then you can easily find one in your files in your head that was that waiter or waitress who was just lights out, who was just on it, who you remember their face, who you feel like probably still remembers your name, even though that's just who they are and they do that on everyone. But you remember that person, and it doesn't have to be a like, oh yeah, remember they threw the bar stool across them. Like, there doesn't have to be this crazy experience. It's just a connection that this person builds with you, and the memorable experience. If we're running around trying to do that all day, every day on our service and sales calls, like, you're going to build a book of business to the point that you're never slow a day in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you just nailed it.
And with that, Eric, so like, I mean, you've mentioned Sandler, and Sandler discloses that there's really 4 main reasons why people buy, right? So you have the pain now, you have the pain in the future, you have the pleasure now, and the pleasure in the future. And the pain is always the more motivating 2 of those 4. The pain now is the highest of that, and the future pleasure being the lowest. So, we have a spectrum of people who listen to this podcast. They come at it from all different angles and different aspects of life and different parts of the trades. And, it's one thing maybe if you're going out there to talk about making a renovation to your home and it's very exciting and everybody's like, this is going to be awesome. This is fun. This is money that we want to spend because we want to invest in our home. And then there's other aspects of the trade, which is we don't want to spend this money. We hate the fact that we're dealing with this problem. We're very frustrated that this is occurring. This is ruining our life, our day, our week, our month, our budget, et cetera, et cetera. We had this money allocated to go to Disney World and all this stuff. And now we have to do this. And, you're caught in the middle of that. I'm assuming Garage Doors has probably both sides of that equation. Some people are looking to make those upgrades to make their house appeal and the smile on the house, as Tommy would say. Other people are frustrated because they can't park their car in the garage and they're literally melting outside right now because of you guys chose to live in the sun. But like based upon whatever experience that you're going into, at some point you have to transition from happy-go-lucky, hey, I'm Erick Parks, I'm super excited to be out here and serve you and get to know you and hear about all your history and everything else, and oh, by the way, this is going to be pretty expensive, and you might not have been expecting that. So how do we make that transition gracefully? Is it that light bulb moment where you said pattern interrupt, here we go? Is it something that you systemized in a way that we can study this and learn to do it better?
Well, I mean, you kind of threw a couple of different questions in there, but say we're in a situation to where their garage door motor is broken, right? So this will kind of answer both of them. At one point, the light bulb's going to go off that we need to address the motor. Okay. And then depending on their personality trait, if it's somebody like you, I'm going to take apart the motor in front of you and show you what's wrong with it. Okay. And we're going to discover things together. I'm going to keep you out there, even though you're a C personality, I probably want to run back inside, but you want to show me how smart you are too. So I'm going to keep you here, buddy. But it comes down to what everybody's scared of is that objection, right? And say, I use this all the time, and this is going to be something a little bit different. And I love this. This is something that I kind of came up with. I use it all the time. Just yesterday, or not yesterday, but on Friday, garage, the motor's broken, right? And motors they're expensive now. right? And I'm sitting there with the customer, and I'm standing next to him, and I come up with my 3 options, right? And before I also price condition them beforehand. When they're, well, how much is this going to be? And I go, well, I'm going to give you options. There's usually 3 options. I'm going to give you expensive, more expensive, and holy that's expensive. Trying to add a little, right? And exactly, no matter what your personality trait is, you're going to laugh at that because they understand, right? And then I go, okay, well, look, here's your first option. If you're only here for a couple of years, like if you are selling the house, don't spend any more money. Just go with this. Keep it simple, being a trusted advisor, right? But you did say you weren't really sure. Well, this middle option is so and so and so, and it's a good fit for that. But here's what I have, okay? Not everybody needs this, but it's what I have and I love. Let me tell you about the features on it. Blah, blah, blah. I'm getting excited. My body language changed. My tonality changed. Everybody forgets how important that is, okay? And then comes the presentation time. I never say the price. You never say the price unless they can't see. If they can't see, then okay, this one's $7.95, this one's $11.10, and that one's $13.45. Never say hundreds, never say thousands. So important. Instead of this one's 750, this one's 1,115, this one's 1,345. Wow, that sounds like a hell of a lot more than 750, 1145, 13, whatever I said. So just keep it simple. I always push the tablet for them to hold. I want them to hold the tablet because now the tablet's the problem, not me. When they're mad at the price, I didn't look them in the eyes and verbally say the price. That is so important. When they're holding the tablet, now they're mad at the tablet. And they look at me and go, golly, that's expensive. And I'm standing right next to them and I go, big sigh. I go, I know. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to say a word. First person to talk loses. We can sit here all day, baby. I got all day. I am not going to say a word. First person to talk loses. Do not say anything. If you start, but shut your mouth. You are justifying and defending. There are no buts. The prices are what they are. Did you own the company? Did you make up the industry? Are you making up the prices? Then why are you so attached to the prices? Stop it. Let the tablet do the talking, okay? And you'd be shocked when you do this that most of the time their first response is, dang, that's expensive. Agree with them. Salesmen are going to try to sell at that point. Just agree with them. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Huh. And when you're quiet, be about 5 seconds later, most of them are going to be like, you know what? Let's go with that one, Eric. Let's go ahead and go with that option. Because you didn't justify and defend, you agreed with them. It creates an emotion. Remember, people buy off emotions in that situation. They're not necessarily buying off intellect at that exact moment. You're creating an emotion, and you've already created emotions and a bonded rapport and trusted advisor. All these are building blocks. You're not just putting up a wall, like picking up all these bricks into a wall. When I walk into a house, I'm putting each brick as perfectly as I can in place to build a wall. Now, if they come to a second objection, this is a beautiful thing that I came up with, I think anyways, and it works really well. And it's going to answer your question about the paint. And they go, man, that's just, like I said, Eric, it's overpriced. It's ridiculous. I just can't afford it, And at that point, I'm going to do a pattern interrupt. And I'm going to say, you know what? Couldn't agree with you more. I do all the grocery shopping in my house. And my wife, she doesn't like grocery shopping, right? But our 2 oldest, Vanessa and Sammy, they're in college, and we got Scotland and Everly at the house, but they all come for the summertime, right? And this last summer, we had them all there. I'm going into the story. I want them to visually walk down this road with me and see the story, right? So my wife and I, first of all, my wife's half Native American, gorgeous, Paiute Indian, right? I mean, just married out of my league. So envision that, if you will. But she's at the end bagging the groceries. And we have a cart full, and it's not overflowing, right? But it's a full cart. And she hadn't been to the grocery store in a long time. I mean, years. And she gets the groceries all bagged up, and the clerk's sitting there, and the clerk looks at us, and she goes, oh, that'll be $3.96. And my wife, who doesn't cuss, is very proper and very well known in the community, like I said, she naturally lets out a, what the F, real loud, and then covers her mouth. And she's like, oh my gosh, are any kids around that, that I teach or anything like that? Everybody in the line just starts busting up because they could see her reaction. She was like, what the, and then instantly covers up. Cashier's busting up and everybody. And she goes, yeah, I haven't been to the grocery store in a while, right? And my wife looks at me and she goes, dude, $400? Are you kidding me? This should have been like $200. And I go, yeah, it was 4 years ago. Like it's absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I do that pattern interrupt and share that story because it is a real story and it's authentic, right? And then they're visualizing it. Yeah, you know what? You're right. And gosh dang it. Well, I guess we got to do it. If they still are not, I got to do it at that point. Then I look at them. Here comes the pain. I go, you know what? Usually they're, most homeowners in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, right? And I look at them, I go, back when I was a kid in the 80s, we didn't have a garage door opener. We didn't have a motor. I mean, I was the motor. Get out, open the door, get out, close the door. Get out, open the door, get out, close the door. Get out, open the door, get out, close the door. And I'll tell them, I'll just be like, you don't need a garage door motor. I mean, you need your electricity. You need your HVAC. I'll talk about other things like that. These are things that you need. You don't need this. The door still goes up and down. You can still get in and out. And then they're sitting there looking at me going, what the F is this guy talking about? Because I'm not trying to sell them, but I'm making them realize they're like, the hell I want to do that. I'm not getting out and opening the door and closing the door, this and that. Oh, now the price isn't so much of a problem, is it? Because they realized how much of a pain in the ass that is and how important it is to them. And all of a sudden, they're like, damn it, let's go with this one. Go ahead and get to work for me. And then you know what I do? I have them sign and I go, hey, there's a couple things on this door that I can't see. If I find something unsafe, like about to break, or is a safety concern, do you want me to let you know? Of course, they're going to say yes, because that's a dumb question, right? But what I'm doing is making them feel empowered with it. And what I'm doing is setting up a second presentation because I'm not scared. And I want their door to run the best that it's ever ran. And I want their door to function like my door, my mom's door, my neighbor's door, anybody's door that I touch. So I'm going to give them the option to do that when I find worn parts. And I'm not going to be scared to let them know. And I'm also going to ask them, do you even like this door? Is there anything about it that you don't like? Have you ever considered a steel back insulated door? I mean, not everybody needs one. I'm a garage door dork, so of course I have a steel back insulated door. We live on the face of the sun for 6 months out of the year, so it really helps. And they're going to let me know. I ask that question all the time. And then I get people that are just like, yeah, absolutely. Well, tell me, Eric, is it really worth it getting a steel back insulated door? And then I tell them another story. I go, yeah, our door faces west and we live in Phoenix or in Surprise, obviously. And before we put our door on, it's about 120 degrees in our garage because we just had a non-insulated door and a face west. You cook in there. We have a refrigerator. And then all of a sudden I look, oh, you guys got a refrigerator and a freezer too. Or, oh, you guys got workout equipment too. I got a 6-foot heavy bag in my garage. If we're relating to each other. And then I tell them another story. I go, my wife was like, do we really need that steel back insulated door? Like, is that thing really worth it? And this and that. And then the summertime rolls around after I put it in, and she goes into the garage to grab a couple White Claws, which, yes, White Claws are delicious. And I am a man, believe you me, but those things are delicious. So don't judge me on that. But anywho, she comes back out. It's 115 by the pool. And she comes back there and she goes, hey, that garage door, I'm sorry, I messed that up. She comes back out to the pool and she goes, hey, it's 92 degrees in the garage. I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. I'm like, huh? What do you mean? She goes, that garage door really works. She goes, last year it was 120. It's 92 in the garage. No, it's not me doing this for, a decade and a half. She had to see it for herself. I think that's the way most women are. But that's a whole nother podcast in itself. I don't know if we want to go down that road. But the point is, I share that story with them and they're like, wow, you know what? Wow. Wait, how much of a degree of a difference? And then we're going to go into that. And then we're going to go into the value and the structural rigidity and the longevity and the ROI. And if they're interested, boom. And that's what I am damn good at. Next thing you know, they're $10,000 deep in a door and here's the most important thing about it. When I leave, they're very, very, very happy. with the decision they made. And they feel like they made the choice, which they did, and that I gave them the best advice that I possibly could and let them make their decision. And I don't get bad reviews. I don't get customer complaints because they're making their decisions to better their house, to invest in what they want to live in and what they want out of it. And if you don't ask those questions, they don't know. You're the expert. So why are you not asking those questions? You don't know what they want. Don't make the decision for them. You're selling out of your own pocket. Stop it. That's just frustrating. You know, when I have a guy over, I want him to give me every option underneath the sun. You know, I want to know what the best thing for my house is, and not just, here's what's broke. I'm going to fix it. Have a good day. So I'm going to see that guy in a year and have to take off work to see him again. And I'm going to be more pissed off when I have to do that, when we could have just done it right and replaced it the first time. And I'm not going to see him except for in Safeway. And I'm going to shake his hand and say, hey, thanks, man. My such and such works great. I really appreciate you, brother. You know, so why are we all not doing that? You know?
It's fascinating, Eric, and I appreciate you sharing all those stories. And that really highlights the power of a story in illustration, especially when it's on a personal level and then it's relatable to the client. And clearly you have a library of these in your head that you can kind of pull up at different times of the call and situations that you encounter. But another thing that stuck out to me, which was pretty fascinating, is the fact that it sounds like you might regularly make 2 presentations. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. A second presentation.
Yeah.
Because what I'm talking about with that is, so a lot of guys will come in. This is Tommy Mello's brainchild and his just one of the most beautiful things. And I am allowed to share it because we're the type of company that we want people to be better, right? We want us all to come up. We want you to provide for your families in the way that you should. And with options, you're also helping the customer. So don't ever forget that. But what I meant by that was, what I'm going to start the work with is exactly that. Start the work with what you're called out there for. Okay. If I'm called out for a garage door with a broken spring, I'm not trying to sell them everything under the sun at first. I'm not doing that. I want their door to work. So we're going to start with spring options. Okay. But I'm also not throwing the whole kitchen sink. So a lot of people want to do the good, better, best, right? How can you even do that when you can't see all the parts? I can't take apart bearings, a center bearing, and see if that's bad or not. You can't really tell if the end bearing plates are bad on a garage door until you take it apart. So how are you even given that option? You're dirty if you are, in my opinion, you know, because you really don't know if that's bad. So how are you trying to sell something when you really don't know if it's bad or not? That's not morally or ethically correct. So what I'll do is I'll start the work with what's visual right there, right? Usually start it with springs and cables, because anytime that you replace springs, you're supposed to replace cables. That's what the IDA, International Door Association, recommends, right? So I'm going to give them options on their spring choices, on the longevity, right? And then cables. And whatever they choose, and after they sign, now we're in a commitment together, okay? You're locked in with me and I'm locked in with you, and I'm going to make this door function. But there are some parts that I can't really tell if they're good or not until I pull them off the door. You know, is it okay with you if I pull you back out here? If I find something that's worn or about to break or is keyword unsafe or a safety concern. I always use those words. And of course they're going to tell me yes, but I also tell them, hey, if everything's fine, don't even worry about it. We're going to lube it up and you're going to be good to go. But what they're doing is they're in control because I asked permission. They're answering the question, right? And they're also telling themselves there's probably something else that's going to be bad. And so when I do that second presentation, they were already prepared for it. It's not a surprise. And I'm only presenting stuff that is worn and stuff that's unsafe and stuff that's a concern. Because you know what? There's a lot that is. And anything that I present is going to make that door better. And my customers will spend a lot of money, and every single one of them is very, very, very happy.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And you've posted some of the videos about those happy clients, which is really cool to see. And it's an interesting take because I'm trying to think back through all of our guests, Brian, and maybe you can think of somebody, but I don't recall anybody who is regularly mentioned that they do double presentations. In fact, definitely the opposite of that, where people are presenting the fix, replace, all in the same presentation. And obviously there's different nuances to trades and things like that, what you can see, what you can't. But you take plumbing, for example. If you're dealing with a leak in the ceiling or something behind the walls or things like that, it does require multiple presentations, because you have to say, hey, step number one, we need to identify where the leak is. That looks like this and this and this, and here's how much that costs. And then once we finally find out where the leak is, then I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to talk to you about what it takes to actually make those adjustments and those repairs. And you're going on from there. So it's not unheard of, but you make it such a regular part of your presentation. It's a really fascinating way of approaching it. And I guess the pushback that I would say, have you ever shot yourself in the foot where you've removed the quote unquote pain from the client? Oh, my door's working now, and I don't want to hear anything else because my door's working again. And, prevented a conversation about actual upgrade or preventative repair or, those types of things now, because the pain is kind of gone. That, if I'm hearing pushback from my side of the trades, it would be, oh no, my system's up and running. The leak stopped. My electric's back on. I don't want to hear anything else. Like, it's good to go. Get it gone, and get out of here. So, have you ever heard that? And then how do you kind of overcome that?
Well, with the spring system, that's an easy one, because I'm not putting the spring system back together, because I have the bearings off and I'm going to take off the rollers, etc. So it's not, the pain's not gone because it's not operating right. But great question, because when it comes to a motor, and say, I start with the motor and we replace the motor, now the door is up and running. What I do is I stoke them out on their initial investment, because at this point they already trust me. I'm a trusted advisor, everything else. I do not, on that second presentation, no matter which one it is, immediately when they walk into the garage go, hey, we got another problem over here. Nobody wants to hear that crap. So, go back to bonding, reporting, and this and that. Like, if it's with the motor, these belt drives now, and you're replacing a chain drive or a screw drive, they're smooth as butter. They're so stoked. And you just stoke them out on their investment. Look at this, and look at this, and this is how this operates. And I forgot to tell you about this feature, and you're all excited, right? Da, 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 da. And then I go, but, really good story actually I had that pertains to this exact thing, but with body language. I told a guy that I was training, he goes, you always talk about body language and how important it is. And the guy had a complete overhaul on his door, but they forgot that they didn't do the rollers. There were plastic wheels on a stick, all rattly and wobbly and what have you. But we were out there for a motor, right? So we did the motor, and the guy looks at me and he asks, how important really is body language? You say that it's more important than tonality and more important than, the questions you're actually answering. I told him, I said, watch this. I said, this guy is going to buy rollers and I'm not going to say a word to him. And he goes, bull crap. I go, well, let me stoke him out on his initial investment, and then I'm not going to say a word, and he's going to buy rollers. Okay. Over $300 for nylon ball bearing rollers. And so the guy comes out, I stoke him out on his motor, and man, he's ecstatic, and we're going over all the features, and he's mirror and matching me with my body language, and he's getting all excited. And I'm like, man, this thing's awesome, and it's so smooth. And I go, ah. And he goes, what? And I just go, kind of, finger him, walk him over, and I take off one of the hinges and grab the roller and show him how wobbly it is. And I just look at him and raise my eyebrows, and I start wobbling it. And he goes, is that bad? And I drop it down and give him the sideways look like, really, bro? And I start wobbling it again. He goes, well, damn, man, that looks really bad. Should we replace it? And I just shake my head like, yeah, bro. And he goes, well, how much is that? And I kind of throw my hands up, grab the tablet, punch it in, hand it to him. And he goes, well, hell, go ahead and do it, Eric. And signs it and walks it. When he walks inside, when he walks inside, I just wink at the trainee and was just like, how important is body language now, bro? And he's like, oh my God. He went back to the academy. And he's like, I just watched Parks sell this guy rollers. He didn't even say a freaking word to him. So super important. I don't even know if that answered your question, but I just remember that story, and I thought it was pretty amazing to show how important those little things are. That's a brick, but that's a very important brick in the wall.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's many of those, Eric, and we could keep going for a while here. It sounds like timing is probably pretty important when it comes to when you're making that second presentation. And that's an important call out there, where you haven't necessarily made all the improvements or all the changes or fixes, and then new information is coming to light. And of course you're having a conversation about that. And
one thing that I do
with
one thing that I do with that second presentation, like you were saying, do you ever see, the thing is, I handle all the objections up front. I think this is going to answer your question, Nate. I apologize. I've been punched in the head a lot in my life. So, I see a squirrel or something, I go completely sideways. But I overcome the objections before they happen. Overcome the price objections before they happen. Like I said, I'm going to give you options: expensive, more expensive, and holy crap, that's expensive. And another one is with that second presentation on something like the rollers. Oh my gosh, now I'm saying all the time because I kind of got scatterbrained right there. I apologize. I totally forgot where I was going. Jeez.
Well, while you think about that, I want to talk about the Moravians rule, which it's a hotly contested topic in communication negotiation circles. But Moravians rule suggested that communication specifically in all forms is just having a conversation. The words we actually say make up 7% of what we're communicating. Tonality, see what I just did there? Yep. Tonality, on the other hand, I said on the other hand without actually saying the words. Tonality makes up 38%. And then body language, including facial expressions, gestures, and posture, we often forget about that one, make up 55. Now they say specifically in sales, that's changed a little bit to the words being 10 to 20%, tonality being 30 to 40%, body language being 40 to 60%. But regardless of whether you use Moravian's rule or whatever, in every case, the actual words coming out of our mouth are less than either of the other two. Less than our tonality and less than our body language. And body language is the most, no matter where you get your data from.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Dead on there. And it goes to say, it's like when people do quote unquote soft skills training at shops in particular, but even the community, the presentation trainers in our industry, overwhelming majority is the word said.
Yep.
Right. If at all there's body language and tonality training, it's very little of it, except, I mean, that's great, except for the fact that it makes up the smallest part of the pie. And that's where we spend all our time. That's not soft skills training. Words are not soft skills. Soft skills are tonality, body language, facial expressions, and posture.
Absolutely. It's super important. Oh, I remember what I was talking about with the objections, Nate, before it even happens, conquering the objection before it even happens. And I tell them, I go, look, if you guys can see this, my eyebrows raised, because I think that everything that Brian just said is beyond important. If you want to go to the next level, this is the next level. Okay. You got to learn a process first, but then the body language and the tonality, that's going to take you to a whole nother level. But I'll tell them, and I'll stand right next to them and raise my eyebrows, and I'll go, look, before I show you this, I don't tell anybody what to do with their money. I'm a married man with 4 daughters. I can't even tell myself what to do with my own money. I think the 4-year-old has more pull in the house than I do. So I pull that one all the time. I'm sorry I got scatterbrained earlier, but that's overcoming the objection before it even happens. And I just created an emotion because they laughed about it. And then when I present it to them, they're already smiling. Oh my God, you got 4 daughters? Yeah, pray for me. The Lord did bless me with some strength, and we're staying away from the price. But at the same time, when I'm doing that, my tonality is on point and my body language is on point. I think those are way more important than the jokes. And you know what? Have a comedian go up on stage and tell the same joke without tonality or without body language next to a comedian that does have tonality and body language. It is a night and day difference.
Yeah, I don't know why when you did that, you made me picture Tombstone. Remember when I don't know, because we're in Arizona, that's why. Remember when it was Sam Elliott, the brother, was on the train getting ready to leave with his wife. He was all shot up, and then I can't remember the characters' names, but they came walking up and they yelled up to him in the train. They're like, hey Virgil, where's Wyatt? And then Wyatt Earp is standing behind him with a shotgun and Doc Holliday. He says, right behind you, Stillwell. Dude turns around and just blasts him, right? And then he says, you tell all the other cowboys the law's coming. You tell them hell's coming, or I'm coming, and hell's coming with me. You hear?
Hell's
coming. And you just remember him yelling that part, like sweat, and he's like teary-eyed because they just killed his other brother. And I don't know why. As soon as you said,
You felt the emotion.
you were talking about just kind of having no tonality or energy to speaking it. I was thinking of actors and the difference in what we would see in movies based on how they use their tonality and body language. And that scene, for whatever reason, just popped into my head. It wasn't that long ago that I saw it, because I try not to go too long without ever rewatching Tombstone, because why would you waste your life like that? But imagine him walking up behind him and going, right behind you, Stillwell. Shoots the one dude.
Dude,
you
it's
tell
a great
all the
movie.
other cowboys that I'm coming, and and hell's coming with me. You hear?
I don't know how I went from a comedian and that one of the most serious scenes in that movie came to your mind.
I don't either. I should have thought of a comedian, but for whatever reason, it was like that scene stuck out, because it's one of the more climactic, energetic, passionate movies.
Or the one where he stands over or tells him, he goes, "You're just gonna sit there and bleed." You know,
man, that was
how intense he said it. Now imagine if he goes, "Hey, are you just gonna sit there and bleed?"
Right. All the differences in the tonality, and then exactly what you said with the stand-up comedians. It's almost all presentation. Dave Chappelle being, in my mind, probably the GOAT of stand-up comedians, and oftentimes he does these voices, he does this energy, he changes his tonality big time in these jokes, and it's like, when he wrote that joke, it was not that funny, but when he delivers it with his energy and his change ups that he does, it's like, my goodness, does he nail these jokes? And the tonality and the way you're moving your hands and posture, and it makes it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Well, Eric, as we're bringing things in for a landing here, the last thing that I wanted to cover is your ability to make these memorable experiences for the homeowner into something that you're actually utilizing to further the cause, both for them and for you. And you've done this many times and continue to do it. You mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, but these takeaway videos where they're giving you a video testimony and they're sharing their experiences. And we're talking about people who are spending 5 figures on their garage to make it upgrades or repairs or whatever it may be. And you would think, hey, that may not necessarily be what they were thinking they'd wake up and spend their money on today. And yet here they are leaving a video testimony with you about how happy they are with the experience. And it's leaving an impact on them and probably their neighbors and their family that they're going to go talk to after the appointment is over. So how, kind of wrap us up here with all the experience that you've talked about and all this dynamic presentation and, the different personalities and the way that you're approaching them and the humor. This is all really good and well. And obviously we transition into the actual hard part of the business where we need to make financial decisions. But at the end of this, you're putting a bow on it with somebody who has spent money and is happily engaged with a video saying, like, Eric's my guy. So what does that conversation sound like? And kind of tell us a little bit about the experience as to why you're doing it and what impact it has had.
Well, somebody had actually asked on the Waste No Day Facebook. They're like, "Hey, how do you start that? And how do you bring that up?" Tommy Mello's 2 favorite words: just ask. Just ask. And with me, with my personality, what I look for a lot is people with big personalities. I like to make some funny videos. You guys have seen the commercial that my girls, that was written, edited, and directed. That was all shot by them. But with customers, I find customers that have some humor and stuff. And we can always do the, how was your service and this and that, but I like to add more flair to it. And so if I'm going to add flair to a video other than just getting a regular testimony, which is great, you should do that to put your own name out there, your company, the brand, and brand yourself and sell yourself too. But I like to take it a little bit further. So I look for customers with some big personalities, which in some of these videos you guys have seen. And it's just one of those spur of the moment things. And I don't think I've ever had a customer say no, because when we're done, they're happy with their buying decision. They're very, very, very happy with their buying decisions. And a lot of the people that I get in the videos have good personalities. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. What'd you have in mind? And I go, okay, well, here's what I'm going to say. Here's what you're going to say. And they're all just one shot. We're not actors, but let's have fun with it. Let's make it in 60 seconds or less. I kind of come up with a little bit of a script and just wing it, man. Like with anything, have fun. Have fun with it. Have fun with your customers.
That is fun, Eric, and you certainly got a knack for it. You have a knack for leaving an impact on the client, and I believe you've left an impact with our listeners today, such to the degree that if anybody is interested in learning more about you, your story, A1, the garage door industry, or just anything that you've talked about today, is there a good place to get a hold of you?
Just Facebook, Erick, Erick, Parks, Parks, on Facebook. That's pretty much it. I stay off the Instagram. I think I'm getting too old for that. I can only handle one social media account at the time.
You jump in the Waste No Day Facebook group, you'll see Eric posting up in there with his client videos and answering people's questions and talking about sales, which is what the community's built for and what we do in there. We got nothing to sell in there. We're just helping each other out.
Yes, sir.
Man, I really appreciate it, bro. This was awesome, epic with 3 hours notice, but you did Wiser Wednesday last week, and I was like, dude, bro, you can just come on and do what you did for Wiser Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hit, and we knew it because it was awesome, and everybody loved it. So appreciate having your time twice in less than a week, my man.
Yeah, brother. Well, you know what? Hey, wait, who's playing the gangster rap? Is that Nate?
Nate, come on, bro. Can you turn down
He's
going back to the Too Short now. He's trying to figure out what we were talking about at the beginning.
He's that dude in the car at the beginning of oh my gosh, what was that? Office Space.
Turns it down and locks the doors.
Exactly. Sorry, Nate. I love you, brother. No,
I'll send you that clip, buddy. I'm sure you've seen it.
If you haven't seen it, it's funny, man. We'll edit that part out, but I want to say this. Truly, thank you guys for what you guys have done. This podcast is so important. Everybody that gets in my van, I tell them about it. You have to listen to this. This has made me better. There is no such thing as the top. Like we consider, an A1 Pinnacle being one of the top guys, right? Well, there is no top. You always have to stay hungry. And I'm so humbled to be a part of this. I'm so grateful with Brian. I know that word is very important and it means a lot to me. Thank you guys for having me on this platform. Thank you for creating this podcast and this platform, and it's absolutely amazing, and it has made me better, and I'm going to continue to be better because of guys like you in the industry. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it.
Man, we appreciate that, buddy. That was one of the best
Eric.
Reviews we've ever had right here on the episode. I didn't even have to read
5
it.
stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode, man. We appreciate you, Eric, and thanks for joining us today. It was good to hear from you and a unique perspective, a very fun and dynamic one, but one that has been very effective at getting you into the field and leaving that reputation with a client, one of memorable experience, one of just a good dude trying to be genuine, one of somebody who's out there trying to help people. We appreciate that perspective, not only for our listeners, but for what it means to the rest of us in the trades in terms of like being a good guy, doing the right thing out there. And I think that's an important thing to always remember, whether you're listening to this on a Monday or some other time of the week. Be the right guy who's doing the right thing for the client. Make them experience your level of service just as you would want it to be done to your mom or to your grandmother or whoever is most special in your world, that you would want somebody like Eric treating them like he treats his clients. And then go do the same thing because you're that guy to somebody else today. So a great reminder from Eric, a great way of summing things up for us. We appreciate him joining us today. And of course, if you appreciated his episode, make sure that you share that with him and let him know that you loved it. And also share this around for others who could use the same encouragement. We're going to leave you now with our weekly challenge, which continues to be the same: to choose to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.